Today I'm going to be showing you how to fully disassemble and reassemble the AAP-01 by Action Army. So some tools you might need are a couple Allen key heads. You're going to need a 1.5 and a 2.0. You'll also need a small Phillips head screwdriver. Sometimes I find it helpful to use a pair of picks or tweezers. For the hammer set, I like to use this pair of pliers here. It just helps me get a better grip and also allows me to tap things into place. Alright, so we'll go ahead and open the box here. Inside the box, you're going to see this very important piece of paper. Essentially what this is saying is that the hop-up comes off and the BB will roll out of the barrel. You'll also get a user manual. Also included is an orange thread protector, your magazine, green gas powered. You'll also get a rail set, the top and bottom rail for accessories. And last but not least, this is the tan Action Army Assassin pistol. Alright, so now let's completely disassemble, starting with the upper. So we're going to use this button back here. This is called the upper lock. We're going to press that in and we're going to separate the two receivers, just like that. Coming out of the factory, the hop-up is going to be turned completely off. So you're going to get a flathead screwdriver or some sort of pick, and you're going to go to these two gears here. You're going to take the bottom one and you're going to push up to slide the gears in place, just like that. Alright, now that we're ready to disassemble, we're going to take our screwdriver and we're going to use the 2.0 size Allen key here. And we're just going to unscrew the rear sight. Now, you don't have to take these screws completely out. It's also easier to leave them in like this so you don't lose them. Remove the bolt from the receiver, just simply pulling it out. Next, we're going to do these bottom screws here. These bottom screws usually come with Loctite on them, as you'll see here, so they can be a bit tricky to get out. Now that those screws are out, you can pull the front and the back in opposite directions. This is the outer barrel and the hop-up. Next, we're going to use the 1.5 size. We're going to undo these screws on the sides of the upper barrel. And then just going to twist it and pull it out. And we're going to switch to the Phillips head screwdriver here. You can use your 1.5 size Allen key to undo this screw here to remove the front sight if need be. Undo the hop-up chamber here. We're going to undo all of the screws on this side. Okay, so now that the screws are undone, we'll set those in a pile so we don't lose them. There's going to be two washers here. Set those aside. So now we have 1/2 of the hop-up chamber. We have the barrel and bucking. You can easily remove that. And optional is to remove this O-ring here. Okay, now the other side of the hop-up chamber are these two gears and this hop-up arm. So we're going to remove those right now by unscrewing this gear on the right. Okay, we'll set that aside. This screw is different than the other screws. Now there's two gears here and your hop-up arm. So the two gears, if you need to take them off, you just pop off just like that. Okay, now let's undo the bolt. For this one, you're going to use your Phillips head screwdriver and undo this bottom screw here. This is where the tweezers come in handy. So we're going to remove the selector switch and the selector itself. So this is the selector and this is the selector switch. Okay, next we're going to undo these two screws at the top. Okay, once you have them loose, they're going to pop up. You can pull out the nozzle block. This is the nozzle block here, this black piece. You have your nozzle spring and you have two screws that go in. Separate those and just pop these screws out. So now that we have that out, we can simply pull the nozzle out. We'll get to that in a second. You can slide your recoil spring out as well as your guide rod. Okay, last thing we'll do is remove the piston head here. Oftentimes it's covered in grease, that's perfectly okay. And now we have to disassemble the nozzle. This is very simple. Just gonna take your tweezers or something small. Okay, and you just simply pull this pin out. So now you have your nozzle. You have your nozzle valve and your nozzle valve spring. Okay, so this is the fully disassembled upper, the AAP-01. We're gonna reassemble it now, and then we're gonna switch to disassembling and reassembling the lower. Now, to reassemble the upper, we're gonna do everything in reverse order. We'll take our piston head. Again, sometimes it's helpful to have a pliers or pick. In this case, I got it the first time. We'll reassemble our nozzle now. So this spring sits down in there just like that. Then you're going to take your valve. I'm just going to put it right on top of the spring. Just like that. So now you should be able to push the nozzle valve in there and feel it spring back up. Take your pin and you'll insert it in there. Just tap it home. It's also why I like pliers. You can take this and just kind of gently force it into place. So make sure you have it in all the way. See here, it's not. This can cause scratching and resistance, which is not a good thing. Okay. All right, now we're ready to continue. So we're going to take the guide rod and you're going to slide it up and in just like that. You're going to take your recoil spring and slide it right over the guide rod. We'll go to our nozzle block. So we're going to attach our nozzle spring just like this. And we'll take our screws and put them in. We're going to slide our nozzle into place. You can see here there's a groove. You want to make sure you have it perfectly lined up in the groove. Now you take your nozzle spring and you take your nozzle block assembly. I'm just going to slide it on in there. Screw it into place. So we'll put our selector. It goes right on this track here. So this groove lines up with that track. This track here. So you can take it, just set it there, and it should be able to slide freely. Take our selector switch, tweezers help. Boom, just like that. Phillips head screw. So our nozzle and our bolt is completely reassembled. So we'll set that aside. Now we're going to assemble the hop up. So we'll take our barrel and we're going to put the bucking on. So there is a groove on the barrel that lines up the groove in the bucking. So you just slide it on just like that. You're going to take the left side of your hop-up chamber and we're going to take our hop-up arm and we're going to insert it in the chamber. So you want to make sure that this bottom window to the right, that this arm goes in there and this arm goes in the top window. Just like that. Okay, so you can see the arm in each window right there. Next we'll take our washers, put those into place. Just like this. And we can take our barrel and bucking and we're going to put it so this ridge is facing up. It should look something like this. So now we're going to take our opposite side of the chamber and we're going to line it up just like that. Make sure your hop up bucking fits perfectly in this groove here. So I'm going to actually just push it in like that. Couple screws here. Next, we're going to put on our gears. So there's this groove here that lines up with this here. So you're just going to click it in place like that. Just turn it until it's flush. You want to make sure it's in the off position. Now you take your other gear and you want to line up these two arrows on the gears like that. Take your screw. So you've just reassembled the hop up. Reattach the hop up assembly to the outer barrel. So you're going to line up this nub here and just push it in so the holes match on each side. Now we're going to switch back to our 1.5 size Allen head. I'm going to reattach, just simply slide it in. Line up the holes here. These are the screw holes. And we're going to switch to our 2.0 size Allen head. We're going to insert the bolt. So there are tracks in the upper receiver that line up with the ridges on the bolt. We'll take our rear sight. So now we've just fully reassembled the upper. Now we're going to fully disassemble the lower half as we'll push the safety out. So there's a nub here, you just push it up and it should just pop out just like that. There's going to be 3 screws. They're all going to be 2.0 size. Unscrew them. Now we're going to knock out 3 pins. Take my tweezers and I'll take my pliers and just tap them. You just take your pliers, pull it out, so now we're going to remove all the internals here. And be careful because there are things under pressure. Right now we can see the hammer is depressed. So we're going to quickly fix that. So now the hammer is up. And what we can do is we can slide this front part out here. This is called the trigger housing. So slide that out. And you can take your pliers or screwdriver and you're going to lift up on the back of the hammer housing. There's a hole. You want to lift just a little bit so the upper lock here slides out. You can keep going, but be careful, put your thumb here because this part here is under tension. So this comes out. This is your fire pin lock and your fire pin lock spring. And we're going to disassemble this after. So we have our trigger housing here. There is a safety lever here, which is this plastic square. I like to remove this part face down so that little spring doesn't shoot out and we lose it. So we have that safety spring, that safety block, and the trigger housing. We have the bolt release spring, the bolt release. Now we have our trigger setup. So we have our trigger bar, trigger spring, and trigger. To remove the trigger spring, simply twist it off of this arm here. To remove the trigger, there's two pins. One pin connects the trigger to the trigger guard. So we're going to move the top pin. So now that's sticking out. We're going to pull it. So now we have the trigger and the trigger pin. So here's the safety. So we're going to remove this bottom pin the same way. So you have another pin there. And you're going to have another piece that slides right out. This is your safety, trigger safety, and your trigger. Now we're going to remove the magazine release spring, and the upper lock spring. So you're just going to grab it and just carefully. So as you can see, that was not careful and it just shot out. So we'll take you can use a screwdriver or tweezers. You're going to push in the magazine spring and you're going to push the spring out of the groove. Just like that. Really just grab it and pull it up. Now you have your complete stripped lower frame. Next, we're going to fully disassemble the hammer groove. Make sure your hammer is up. So you're going to push in this bottom pin, pull it out. Now that pin's out. There's a spring here, and there's another piece here. Again, you want to be careful because they are under tension. Okay. Next is the auto sear. So it's going to be this pin here. Push that in, and you want to make sure you capture the auto sear here. So we have the auto sear and the auto sear spring. I'm going to remove this pin here. So now our firing pin came out, and your hammer should just slide out just like that. Now let's reassemble our AAP-01 lower. So first you'll take your hammer and your hammer spring. It's going to go in just like this. So the little arm is facing up. Next, you'll take your roller, put it right in the top hole, like that. So the grooves are wrapped around this metal ledge here. You want to make sure you have the hammer pin ready, and I like to do this method called the slave pin method. So you're going to use the bottom smooth pin and the hammer pin. Your hammer housing is facing like this direction. You're going to slide in from the bottom so the spring is captured on that ledge there. Bottom spring is sticking out. You're going to press in, line up these holes, and you're going to hold it. Take your slave pin, stick it in the bottom just like this. And you're going to tap. Okay, so now we have our slave pin in. I tap it in pretty far until it's almost at the end there. And now you'll take your hammer pin and you're going to put it right on the top there. And you're going to tap that one in slightly. Just like this. So there's going to be enough room for this arm to slide right in there. So you're going to line it up. This square part fits in that square hole there. You're going to rock the hammer back and it's going to slide right in. That helps if you have tweezers. Okay. As you can see, it's just in there. And you just tap it home. Alright, so I lost my pin, my slave pin in the process, but the goal is achieved. So now we have, the hardest part is done. I think this is the disconnector. Put this in like this. At the top of this spring fits right on that ledge right there. So I'm going to get my tweezers. Put it just like that. So you want to put it oriented like this. So now the top of the spring is on that ledge. You can simply slide in your pin there, just like that. So now it helps to have a flathead screwdriver. So you're going to take it and you're going to push it in like that. So you can see that hook is now hooked into this hole there. We'll do the auto sear. Hit like this. This is how it's going to go in. The short arm facing down and the tangent longer arm facing in. Like that. Easy if I spin it like this. And you're going to put this spring on this ledge here. Just like this. You're going to hold it while you slide in the pin. This is what the pin looks like. Now this pin should be flush. And let's check the function. So you're going to pull down the hammer and it should snap right into place. So the hammer should not fire while the auto sear is engaged. So we're going to push it up, push this back and it fires. So it's going to go right into these grooves here because it is a spring. Okay, so now you want it just like that, so it's in the groove. And next you're going to take your magazine release. You're going to put it this way. So you're going to hook it in, loop it through. You want to hold it, take your tool, and you want to put it right back in that groove there. Just like that. Now we'll put the upper lock spring on, just like this. So we'll need the trigger itself, trigger safety, trigger bar, and the 2 trigger pins. So we're going to insert it like this, so it's on the bottom pull of the trigger, like that. You'll take your pin, and you'll insert it there. Pliers, squeeze it home. Next, we'll take our trigger bar, and we will line it up with the top hole. Do the same thing. Now we'll take our trigger spring and we're going to put it on like this. So you're going to loop it through this hook, just like that. Alright, next is the bolt release spring, the bolt release, and the trigger housing. You're going to rest it right on this groove of the trigger in this orientation. Bolt release, slide it over the trigger like this. Make sure the top of the bolt release spring is on top of the bolt release. And this spring here is hooked in to that ledge. Now you want to hold it steady, like I have it here. And you want to make sure you have your trigger pin, your trigger assembly pin, and your trigger housing ready. So you're now going to grab your trigger housing, slide it in like that. You'll take your pin, put it in. I find it helpful to use the table. You're just going to slide it home there. Now you're going to connect your trigger spring. I'm going to put in our safety piece, just like that. And we're going to put the spring in for the safety piece after we put this assembly in the lower frame. So this part, we're going to put the trigger in there. You're going to rest your hand on top like this. Okay? And you're going to take the pin out and you're going to squeeze your hand and push everything down. Squeeze in, and you can just put everything back into place. Just like that, or the safety spring in there. I find it helpful to use tweezers and a flat head screwdriver, or in this case I have this really handy tool, and you're going to rest it on the spring, and you're going to slowly squeeze the spring like this. Then you're going to set it right in that hole. You're going to put your flathead on that, push down, and then let go of the tweezers. Just like that. You're going to line up this edge here, goes over this lip here of the trigger bar. So you're going to come in sideways, and you're going to turn it like that. So you're going to make sure the bolt release is out of the way. It looks like our bolt release spring came loose. So we're going to fix that right now. Just like that. So now that this is in place, you want to make sure you put your upper lock on. So you want to lift it up a little bit. Lock spring. Slide it right in the groove there. Lock. And you're going to slide it right under where that hole is. Just like this, so it's flush. Okay. Push it down a little bit. And now we'll put in our upper lock. Slides right in the back there. Now we're going to put our pins in. Just like that. And we can hammer them home a little bit. In these screws, take our safety. It says up here, red's on the left. You're going to slide it in like this. Push it in, a tool, and just push it in till it clicks. And last but not least, we will reattach. I haven't really seen too many newer videos for the AAP-01 here, so I'm going to be coming out with a bunch of videos on upgrades and fixing common problems. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.